The folder was warm against my thigh when I pulled it from the inside pocket of my blazer. I held it flat on the steering wheel for a second, just breathing through the leather and paper scent and trying not to look at the building in front of me. The last time I walked through those glass doors, I was smiling too much for someone about to shake hands with a man who made my skin crawl. My name's Derek Patel, 36, partner track, mid-tier investment advisory firm based in Chicago, and yes, I pulled out of what would have been the biggest deal of my career. Just backed out. No headlines, no grandstanding, just a quiet no and a redirect email with 3 lines. I still have the draft. People love telling stories where they just knew. I'm not sure I did. Not at first, but something itched. Something stank. And 2 weeks later, when Darren Whitmore's mugshot hit the news, the entire office turned to look at me like I had a sixth sense. I didn't. Let me walk you through it. 2 months earlier, the first email from Whitmore Capital came through on a Thursday around 4. My boss, Helen, slid her phone across my desk while I was elbows deep in a report on regional manufacturing forecasts. Check your inbox. Subject line says, Strategic Equity Opportunity. You're going to want to prioritize this one. I looked at her sideways. That code for a last-minute headache? She just smiled and pointed at the sender. That's the Darren Whitmore. You land this, you'll be the guy who wrangled the golden goose. Her voice dropped slightly as she walked off. Just don't screw it up. I'd heard of him, sure. Everyone in mid-cap circles had. The man made his name gutting Midwestern logistics companies and repackaging them into clean, scalable holdings for coastal buyouts. Sleek guy, always a navy suit, white shirt, unbuttoned collar, didn't do ties. He had that cold charisma that made people laugh a little too hard at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. I clicked the email. Mr. Patel, your reputation for discerning partnerships precedes you. I'd welcome the chance to speak about a portfolio opportunity currently undervalued by the market. Time sensitive. Can you meet this week? Darren W. Slick. Vague. That was his style. I remember thinking the word discernment felt like a trap, like he was already flattering my skepticism, so I'd feel flattered for using it. Still, I bit. You don't ignore Darren Whitmore. We met at a restaurant in River North that probably cost more per square foot than my first apartment. I showed up in a gray suit. He was already at the bar, drink in hand, open collar, dark blue sports jacket like he just strolled off a yacht. Derek Patel, he said, standing to shake my hand. His grip was firm, dry. Appreciate you making time. He ordered for both of us without asking. Wagyu carpaccio, and a bottle of the Ridge Zinfandel. They've got the 17. Here, trust me. I did not trust him, but I let it slide. The pitch came fast. He was looking to divest a majority share in a regional supply chain platform he'd rolled up over the past 4 years. Warehouses, last-mile logistics, a few trucking fleets, tight margins, legacy headaches, but high upside if you know how to streamline operations, he said, spearing a paper-thin slice of beef without breaking eye contact. I asked for the financials. He laughed. Of course. But first I need to know if you're serious. We're talking 20 million, potentially 40 if we stack the incentives right. I nodded slowly. We don't move without data. He tapped his glass against mine. Then I'll have my team send over the deck tonight. It was waiting in my inbox before I even got home. The first red flag. You'd think it was something obvious, like fake numbers or shady cash flows. It wasn't. On paper, everything was clean. Too clean. The margins were tight, but believable. The projections weren't outlandish. The past 3 years showed steady growth. But the names of the subsidiary companies, they felt off. I'd seen those logos before on shipping pallets. Cheap, worn-out branding you associate with failing mom-and-pop suppliers. Why would Whitmore care about holding on to them? Roll-ups need rough edges, Helen told me when I flagged it. You polish them after the acquisition. Think of it like buying a fixer-upper. But something stuck. I couldn't shake the feeling that this guy was spinning a little too fast. And he didn't blink when I brought up the risk ratios. Instead, he leaned in. You don't get to the next level by playing defense, Derek. You know that. I smiled, but my stomach tightened. The meeting. 2 weeks in, we were invited to his corporate offices, a top-floor suite with a skyline view, and receptionists who looked like they belonged in a fashion catalog. I brought Amrita, our in-house analyst. She's sharp, tough, and has a bullshit radar like nobody else. We sat through the usual dance, PowerPoints, coffee, whiteboards full of growth opportunity vectors. But during a break, Amrita leaned over and whispered, "Where's the debt?" "What do you mean?" He keeps talking scale. But there's no line item for restructuring loans or short-term liabilities. That doesn't make sense. I asked Darren directly when we returned. Are the debts offloaded to a separate entity or... He cut me off. That's part of the elegance of the structure. We've pre-spun certain assets into a parallel holding vehicle to reduce tax overhead. I froze for half a second. A parallel holding vehicle is the kind of phrase you use when you're either brilliant or hiding a paper trail. The second red flag. The next day I called an old client of ours, someone I knew had worked briefly with Whitmore's logistics chain. I won't name him, but he was a VP at a Chicago-based warehouse tech supplier. "Whitmore," he said on the phone. "Look, between us, he plays dirty. Real dirty. You didn't hear it from me. Anything I should know before we commit?" A pause. Then, he restructures contracts mid-deal, claims you missed performance marks retroactively, then sues you for breach, settles cheap, but it screws your cash flow. You play his game, you bleed. I thanked him, hung up, stared at my screen. The folder with the draft agreement was still open. Numbers were good. Incentives aligned, but my gut had curled into a tight little knot. That night I couldn't sleep. The decision. Helen wasn't happy when I told her I was out. "Are you serious? Derek, this would make your career. Everyone else is in, legal's ready, compliance signed off. We're at the 1-yard line." "I know," I said quietly, "but I don't want our name on it." Her face darkened. "He's not even indicted. This is pure speculation." "That's exactly why I'm walking now, before he is." She didn't speak for a full beat. "Fine," she said finally. "We'll assign it to Kyle. You're off." Kyle Simmons. Bright guy, ambitious, but green. I handed him my notes, warned him what to look out for. He grinned like he'd just been handed the keys to a Porsche. 2 weeks later, I was in line at a Walgreens when my phone buzzed. First 1 notification, then 3, then 10. Breaking. Darren Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Capital, indicted for wire fraud, conspiracy, and securities violations. I froze. Kyle texted me 30 seconds later. "Holy shit, you saw this?" Then, "Amrita, you called it. Jesus, we dodged a bomb." Then Helen, "Come see me first thing Monday." The Walgreens cashier tapped the counter. "Sir?" I stepped out of line, left without buying anything. My hands were shaking. Helen didn't say a word when I walked into her office Monday morning. She just pointed to the chair, shut the door behind me, and folded her arms across her chest, like she was holding something back. Her usual morning coffee cup was untouched, still full. That alone told me this wasn't going to be a quick, "you were right" kind of conversation. She finally spoke. "Derek, I owe you 2 things." I raised an eyebrow. She held up a finger. 1, an apology. I pushed too hard, too fast. I saw the upside, and I didn't want to believe anything was off. I nodded, but didn't say anything. I wanted to know what the second thing was. She raised a second finger. 2, a headache. That one made me laugh, just a little. Helen sighed and leaned back against her desk. Legal's in cleanup mode. Kyle's a mess. He had 2 Zoom calls with Whitmore's team before the news broke, and now he's acting like he's been named as a co-conspirator. He's not, right? No, not even close. But perception's half the battle in this business. And the optics right now? Ugly. We need to show clients we were never really in. And we weren't, I said. She nodded slowly. Because of you. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired, and maybe a little unsettled. Because part of me wasn't sure I would have backed out if Whitmore had just been a little slicker, if he'd papered over his tracks a bit better, if he'd put the debt where it belonged and kept the holding structures simple. Would I have trusted the numbers then? The line between gut instinct and blind luck is razor thin, and it cuts both ways. Flashback, 3 days before the indictment. I hadn't told Amrita this, but I was still thinking about calling Darren back. There's a moment in every advisor's career, usually several, when you start to second-guess your own caution. The little voice in your head says, what if I just don't have the stomach for this? That Friday, I sat alone in a coffee shop on Clark Street with the unsigned draft agreement in front of me again. It was a stupid thing to do. We were already off the deal. But I'd printed it anyway. 2 high school kids were laughing behind me, tossing sugar packets across the table. A barista was arguing with a DoorDash driver about someone's missing scone. The world was noisy, normal, routine, and this piece of paper in front of me, this maybe deal, this maybe trap, was sitting there like a choice I hadn't quite finished making. Then I saw it, buried in the appendix of the draft, a footnote reference to a supplier name I didn't recognize. Halberton Transit Systems. I pulled out my laptop and Googled it. One result: a barely functioning website, no contact info, and one archived article from 2 years ago about a Department of Transportation fine for improper load documentation and unsafe conditions. I dug deeper. Turns out Halberton wasn't a real carrier. It was a shell company used by Whitmore's logistics chain to underbid competitors on warehouse-to-hub runs. Essentially, a paper company hauling paper cargo. The trucks were real, but the manifests were fake. That was it for me. That was the itch. That was the stink I couldn't name. I shut my laptop and walked out without finishing my coffee. Aftermath, the office cleanup. By Tuesday morning, everyone in the office had an opinion. Some were calling me clairvoyant. Others were suspicious. One guy, Matt from the tax strategy team, made a joke at the espresso machine. Careful what Derek touches. It might turn into an indictment. I gave him a tight smile, but said nothing. I'd worked with Matt for 4 years. He always liked being the guy with the clever line, but never the guy who actually took a risk. Amrita found me later that day in the break room, leaned against the fridge, like she was just stretching her back. But I knew she was waiting to talk. You know it's going to follow you, right? She said. What? This. Saying no when everyone else said yes. Pulling out before the iceberg hit. Doesn't matter if it was guts or luck. People remember the guy who jumped early. I shrugged. Better than being remembered for going down with the ship. She nodded once. Still, watch your back. Kyle cracks. I wasn't going to throw Kyle under the bus. He got looped in late, trusted the briefing, and did what most junior partners would have done. Said yes to power. But by Thursday, he'd stopped showing up to meetings. I found him in one of the empty glass conference rooms, sitting in the corner with a legal pad and 3 empty Red Bulls. You good? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Just scratched something on the pad. I glanced at it. looked like flowcharts of who spoke to who and when. "I didn't do anything illegal," he said quietly. "I know. But I sent the calendar invite for the call. Does that mean I facilitated a fraud?" "No, Kyle. No. Stop spinning. You are acting under company guidance. We have compliance reviews for a reason. You're clear." He looked up at me, eyes red-rimmed. "You're not scared at all?" I hesitated. "I am. Just not of what you're scared of." That seemed to confuse him. "I'm not worried about jail," I said. "I'm worried about how many of us get close to this stuff and don't say anything. How many times I've looked the other way just because the paperwork passed." He nodded slowly, but I could tell it didn't land. Not yet. He wasn't scared of corruption. He was scared of blame. Different thing. The call from Darren. Here's the part I didn't expect. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then checked the transcript. Darren Whitmore, I assume you've seen the news?" Beat. "I'm calling you because, well, you're probably one of the only people who actually saw this coming, and I guess I'm wondering, why didn't you warn me?" I stared at the screen. I played the message again, just to hear his tone. Calm, almost amused, like it was a chess match, and I'd made a move he didn't anticipate. He wasn't sorry. He was curious. That's when I realized something. Guys like Whitmore don't fear consequences. They fear being outmaneuvered. And somewhere in that slick, shameless brain of his, he thought I'd played him. I hadn't. I just walked away. Damage control and doubts. The following week, our firm held a quiet client advisory call. Helen spoke first, polished and firm. We reviewed the offer, conducted initial diligence, and ultimately chose not to move forward. We had concerns about transparency. One of our older clients asked, "Who raised the flag?" Helen's eyes flicked toward me, but she didn't answer directly. Later, she pulled me aside. "I didn't name you. Figured you'd prefer it that way." I nodded. She was right. But inside, a strange thing was happening. I started getting cold emails. Recruiters, board members, even a couple of private equity firms asking if I was open to conversation. Apparently, people like discernment after the fires already burned down the house. Personal fallout. I haven't told my parents about any of this. My dad still thinks I'm a glorified accountant. My mom just wants to know if I'm eating enough vegetables. And my girlfriend, Mira, she's been quiet since it all went down. One night she said, "You did the right thing. That's rare." But then she asked, "Would you do it again if the deal was bigger, cleaner?" I didn't answer right away. I still haven't, because I'm not sure what scares me more, almost getting pulled into it, or the fact that under slightly different circumstances, I might not have pulled out at all. The voicemail sat untouched in my inbox for 2 days. Darren Whitmore had called me, after his indictment hit every major financial news outlet like a bomb. After FBI agents were photographed walking out of his building with boxes and laptops. After investors started demanding buybacks. After his board of directors claimed they were shocked. He still thought this was a game. I didn't delete the message. I didn't reply either. But I played it a few more times, always late at night, alone, headphones in, like I was listening for something I hadn't caught the first time. He said my name the way someone says the name of an opponent. Like he respected me for ducking the trap. Like I was the only one smart enough to not fall for the scam. But the thing is, I almost did. The compliance team wants a chat. Wednesday morning, legal called me into a meeting with compliance. Standard postmortem, they said. It wasn't. 3 people in the room. 1 lawyer I didn't know, 1 compliance officer I barely recognized, and Helen. She sat next to me, stone-faced, sipping lukewarm coffee and offering no expression as they opened a file with my name on the tab. "We want to understand the internal communications timeline," the legal guy said. Of course, I said, happy to help. I backed out of the deal 2 weeks before. Yes, but we want to know why. What made you hesitate? Who did you speak with? Was there a specific piece of documentation that caused concern? Multiple factors, I said carefully. There were inconsistencies in the shell companies, some non-aligned performance metrics. I also got an informal warning from a contact with experience working under Whitmore's umbrella. Can we get that name? I shook my head. It was off the record. He didn't press, but he didn't write anything down either. Just nodded like he'd expected that answer. Then the compliance officer jumped in. Did Darren Whitmore ever contact you directly outside of scheduled calls or meetings? I blinked. Why? Just answer the question. I paused. Yes. He left a voicemail after the indictment. I didn't respond. Can we hear it? That stopped me. I guess. Sure, but it's short. He just asked why I backed out. Did you delete it? No. Good. We'll need to pull a copy. Helen finally spoke then. Is he being charged with witness tampering? Legal shook his head. Not yet. Not yet. Amrita connects the dots. That afternoon, Amrita showed up at my desk. No knock, no text first. Just walked straight up and said, You still have that voicemail? Yeah. You need to back it up. Off your phone. Whitmore's team just wiped the site for Halberton Transit Systems. No DNS record, no cached pages, nothing. It's gone. I sat up. They torched it. They're scrubbing. Full burn. Any asset that might show a connection between the shell companies and the fraudulent inventory routes, they're trying to erase it. How do you know? I tracked the hosting provider. They pulled everything at 3:42 a.m. Eastern. I stared at her. She crossed her arms. He's cleaning house, even from behind bars. You think he knows I caught that connection? She nodded. And now you've got the last voice print he left before everything collapsed. That's not just a voicemail. That's a tell. Kyle wants out. By Friday, Kyle had cleaned out his desk. Nobody said the word fired, but I saw the empty mug spot and the post-it with a phone number scratched out with a Sharpie. Helen called me in just before lunch. HR is reassigning some of his accounts. You good picking up Brantley Freight and the Everspan project? I sat down slowly. Was Kyle forced out? She didn't answer directly, just looked at me, then said, he was rattled. He wanted to work somewhere less volatile. That's one way to put it. She leaned back. You should know. His parents called. Left a message. Wanted to know if someone in management pressured him into taking responsibility for the Whitmore fallout. Did they say who told them that? She shook her head. No, but I've got a hunch. Kyle's not the type to walk unless someone planted the idea he'd be made the fall guy. I rubbed my forehead. You think he's talking to the press? No, but if he does, we need to make sure we're aligned. There it was again. The firm's favorite word. Aligned. It doesn't mean truth. It means a version of the story that protects the right names. The interview request. That night, I got a LinkedIn message from a reporter at the Chicago Ledger. Financial beat. Smart guy. I'd met him once at a networking event. He wrote, Hi, Derek. Off the record for now, but we're working on a deeper piece about Whitmore's internal operations and investor partners. Heard you walk before the collapse. Would love to know more about what tipped you off. Coffees. On me. No attribution without explicit consent. I didn't reply. Then I read it again. And again. And finally closed my laptop. Because here's the thing. I didn't want to be a source. I didn't want to be the whistleblower, or the golden gut guy, or the man with perfect hindsight. I just wanted to work again without second-guessing every clean spreadsheet. Dinner with Mira Mira. Cooked pasta that night. Nothing fancy. Garlic and oil. Some leftover chicken. Red pepper flakes. She poured us both wine and waited until we'd eaten a few bites before saying, I read the article. I looked up. The one that said the firm nearly went through with the deal before an internal pause? That was you, right? I nodded. Yeah. Internal pause is corporate for one guy pumped the brakes. She studied me for a second. You don't look relieved. I'm not. Why not? Because it doesn't feel like I saved anything. It feels like I barely ducked something I didn't see clearly until it was already blowing up. She set her fork down. Maybe. But most people don't even slow down. You did. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, you know what's weird? I keep wondering if Whitmore wanted to get caught. She raised an eyebrow. Seriously? He called me, left his name, didn't hide it, like he wanted someone to know he knew I knew. That's ego. Maybe. Or maybe it was something else. Maybe guys like Whitmore test the limits because they want to feel the edge, the memory that bothered me most. I'll tell you the moment that wouldn't stop replaying in my head. It wasn't the voicemail, not the call with my source, not even the realization about Halberton. It was that first dinner, the one where he ordered for me without asking, the carpaccio, the Ridge Zin. It was the way he lifted his glass and said, you don't get to the next level by playing defense, Derek. He said it like a promise, like a threat, like he knew that sentence would echo if everything fell apart. And it did. It still does. The voicemail gets pulled. On Monday, legal asked me to send over the voicemail file. I did. They forwarded it to external counsel. No one thanked me. Then 2 days later, I got a call. Blocked number. I didn't answer. But the next morning, my tires were slashed. Front passenger side, then the rear. On the same side. Clean, quick, deliberate. Police wrote it up. No security footage. No suspects. I didn't tell Helen. I didn't tell Mira either. But I started checking over my shoulder in parking lots. Final scene. The man in the lobby. Friday, I was leaving late. 11:30, maybe closer to midnight. The janitor had already gone. Most of the lights were off. I was walking through the ground floor lobby toward the revolving door when I saw him. A man in a navy suit, collar open, watching me from a bench near the elevators. He didn't say anything. Didn't stand. I didn't stop. I walked right past the security desk, pushed through the door, and didn't look back until I was halfway down the street. He was gone. Whatever this is, it's not finished. I keep telling myself it's over, that the indictment, the scrubbing, the voicemail, the tires, even the reporter, that it's all trailing smoke from a fire that already burned out. But something tells me Whitmore didn't call me just to ask a question. He wanted to leave a mark. The voicemail was gone from my phone by the next morning. I didn't delete it, but it was gone. No transcript, no audio file, not even in my backups. I checked my cloud, my carrier voicemail archive, even tried pulling it through my email app where I'd once forwarded a copy to myself as a draft. Nothing. Cleaned. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, fridge humming behind me like a warning bell, and just stared at the screen. I hadn't touched the thing all night. I barely slept. Mira was still out cold in the bedroom, one leg kicked out of the blanket the way she always did when she felt safe. I didn't. The IT department has nothing. I walked straight into the office that Monday and went down to the basement level where our IT and compliance backups were kept. Diego, our systems admin, was sipping what looked like the world's most tragic vending machine coffee. Yo, I said. Quick question. Shoot. Any chance company servers log our voicemails or cloud backups? He laughed. What, like your mom left you a message you want to save forever? Something like that. He leaned back, scratched his neck. Nope. Phones are through our personal carrier accounts. We don't sync voicemails unless they're converted to email. I had it as a draft once. Once? Yeah, it vanished. He frowned. Check your Google activity log or Apple's. If someone accessed your account, even through a mirror session, it'll leave a trace. I nodded, already pulling out my phone, but I didn't check it right away. Because if what Diego was implying was true, someone else accessed my stuff, it meant this wasn't just about Whitmore anymore. It meant somebody else still had something to lose. The Google activity log. I found it later that night. Buried in a list of innocuous data points was one entry that didn't fit. Audio file played at 03:18 a.m. Not by me, not on my device. It was tagged to an IP address registered in Virginia. That's when I stopped breathing for a second. Langley? No. More likely Arlington. Or Quantico. FBI, SEC, or someone pretending to be one of them. But then another thought hit me. What if Whitmore had access to internal friends who weren't named in the indictment yet? People who still had access to things they shouldn't? People who needed that voicemail gone. The meeting with Helen. Tuesday morning, I asked for time on Helen's calendar. She booked me a 9:15 10-minute slot. Her office smelled faintly of lilacs and printer toner, and her laptop was already open to a spreadsheet she minimized before I sat down. Something up? Yeah, the voicemail from Whitmore. It's missing. She raised an eyebrow. You said you sent it to legal. I did, but the original? Deleted from my phone, not by me. Her face didn't move. That's a serious allegation, she said after a long silence. I'm not making an accusation. I'm saying there's a trail, IP address, external access. Are you suggesting someone inside this firm tampered with your personal device? I held her gaze. I'm saying the voicemail was removed remotely. That only happens when someone knows exactly where to look. Helen looked away, just for a second, then she tapped her pen 3 times on her notepad. Let me talk to compliance. I already did. She stopped tapping. Her voice was cooler now. Then why are you here, Derek? Because someone's still trying to control the story. She didn't blink. So control it first. That was it. That was all she said. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't clarify. She just handed it off, like all of this was a chessboard, and she had one less piece to move. The journalist again. That night, I messaged the reporter back. Okay, we can talk, but no names, no recordings, no direct quotes. I just want you to understand what kind of man Whitmore really is. He replied within 10 minutes. Understood. Off the record. Meet you tomorrow. Blue bottle on Kinsey Foroto. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear. At least not the panic kind. It was a quiet tension, like when you know a bridge can hold your weight, but you still take your steps carefully. By morning, I'd written down everything I remembered about the voicemail, the deal, Halberton Transit, the fake margins, the structure, even the smell of that expensive red wine Whitmore insisted on ordering. I didn't plan to hand it over, but I needed the words somewhere. The interview. He was younger than I remembered. Mid-30s, wireframe glasses, calm voice, black notebook instead of a laptop. I'm not trying to trap you, he said after we got our coffee. Honestly, I think you might be the most important person in this story. I'm not, I said. I just flinched early. He nodded, scribbled something. You think Whitmore's team deleted the voicemail? I know someone did. He flipped a page. You think the indictment's the end? No. What do you think it is? I took a breath. I think it's the start of a controlled collapse. He's burning the evidence he chooses to burn. This isn't panic. It's strategy. He's narrowing the narrative. Why? To leave the door open for a comeback, or to protect people we haven't met yet. The reporter scribbled faster. Then he said something that surprised me. You think he left the voicemail on purpose? I looked up. Yeah, I do. Back at the office. The envelope. When I returned to the office the next morning, there was a small envelope on my desk. No name, just a sticker seal. I opened it. Inside, a photocopy of a single ledger entry from Halberton's books. A line item labeled Transfer Holding Adjustment, 0919, WP XCal. My initials. XCal was one of our internal project code words used for high-risk, high-reward acquisitions. No one should have linked that name to me, not externally. The paper was already starting to curl at the corners. I turned it over. Nothing on the back. I slipped it into my drawer and didn't mention it to anyone. Because now I knew. This wasn't just a cleanup job. It was a message. Someone was keeping score. Later that week, Mira's warning. "You're not sleeping," Mira said. We were on the couch, some documentary playing in the background. I hadn't heard a word of it. Just thinking. She picked at the throw blanket between us. "You haven't looked me in the eye since Tuesday." I didn't respond. She turned toward me. "Derek, do you feel safe?" I swallowed. "Not really." "Then get out." "Of the firm?" "Of all of it. This story, this obsession, this feeling that you have to fix something that was never yours to fix." She wasn't wrong, but that's the thing about being right. Sometimes it's not enough. Final scene, the call from a burner Friday night, 11:45. Phone buzzes, no caller ID. I pick up anyway. The voice is low, compressed, like it's been routed through something. "Derek, you're not in danger, but the more you talk, the more you invite people who don't make warnings first." I say nothing. "You played it smart. Stay smart. No one needs to lose more than they already have." Click. No voicemail this time, just silence, and a growing sense that I was being given one final out. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the call, though it echoed in my head for hours, but because of the calm in that voice. Like whoever they were, they'd already accepted that everything was a transaction. Every warning was a courtesy. Every silence had a price. It wasn't a threat. It was a professional courtesy. A subtle way of saying, "You're still useful. Don't make yourself into a problem." And that made it worse. The choice, fade or fight. Saturday morning, I drove out to a park near the lake, one Mira and I used to go to before things got heavy. I sat on a bench near the trail with a paper coffee cup slowly going cold in my hands, just watching a kid try to teach his dog to chase a frisbee. In my back pocket was the envelope from my desk. I'd folded the paper 3 times so it wouldn't show through. I was holding a decision, and I knew it. Walk away, take the silent win, keep my job, clean my rep, live a long, safe life in an industry that survives by pretending the worst things never happened, or speak again. Feed the press. Follow the paper trail. Let it consume me. People love to imagine they do the brave thing, the right thing. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes, after you dodge a bullet, you just want to keep walking. The reporter publishes anyway. The article hit on Monday morning. Front page of the finance section. The deal that didn't close. How one analyst walked before Whitmore burned. He didn't use my name. He didn't even hint at it. But anyone inside the industry, anyone who'd been paying attention, knew. The quote that stood out most? "Sometimes the smartest move isn't the bold one. It's the one you never take." Anonymous source, financial analyst, Chicago. He'd asked for something he could print. I didn't remember saying that line, but maybe I did. Or maybe he just understood what I couldn't say out loud, the fallout inside the firm. My desk didn't move. My badge still worked. Helen didn't call me in, didn't send a single message, didn't even walk by my desk all week. But on Thursday, a folder appeared in my inbox. New client assignment. Central Aegis Insurance. Underwriting risk evaluation. Lead, Derek Patel. No note, no meeting, but I understood what it meant. This was my reward, my promotion, my quiet reinstatement into the trusted fold. I'd made the firm look smart by backing out of Whitmore, and now they wanted to make sure I didn't leave. Or worse, talk again, control the story, keep the talent, seal the cracks. That's how they do it. Kyle's last message. The same day, I got a text from Kyle. Hope you're okay. Saw the article, recognized the shoes. I smiled. He meant that literally. The article had a photo, just legs and shoes, walking away from an office tower. Mine. I'd worn them the day I walked out of that final Whitmore meeting. You landing anywhere yet? I replied. Maybe. Had a few calls. One place wants to know if I'll testify. You going to? Still deciding. If you do, I'll back you. Thanks. I might need that. We didn't say more, but something settled between us. Something that hadn't existed when I was just the guy who'd won by saying no. Now we were both people who almost got caught. Mira leaves a letter Friday night. I came home late. Mira wasn't there. On the kitchen table was a plain envelope. Inside was a single page, handwritten. Derek, I love you. But I can't keep watching you live inside this story. I know you didn't ask for it. I know you didn't chase it. But I also know it's not done with you, and maybe it never will be. So I'm stepping away for now. I need to find something that's not circling the same fire. Please don't hate me for it. I'll be okay. You will. 2. Just don't let them turn you into one of them. M. I folded it twice and left it in my jacket pocket. It's still there. The final offer. Monday morning. A brown envelope on my desk. Inside, a single business card. No logo, just a name I didn't recognize, and a phone number with a DC area code. On the back, in neat ink, sometimes the cleanup crew needs someone who knows what to look for. No signature, no instruction, just an invitation. I haven't called it. Not yet. Epilogue, the story beneath the story. So here's the part I didn't tell the reporter. Here's the part I haven't told Helen, or Mira, or Kyle, or even myself out loud. I didn't walk away because I saw through Whitmore. I walked because, for one split second, I wanted to be him. I wanted the deal, the win, the control, the cold certainty, and it scared the hell out of me, so I backed off. Not because I was brave, because I was afraid of what I'd become if I kept walking. And maybe that's what saved me, or maybe that's just what I tell myself to sleep at night. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.